This reference deck covers Divert Airfields, how an Airboss chooses them before a show, and how that choice ends up on the slide you brief to every performer. It draws on FAA Advisory Circular 91-45, ICAS Airshow Performance Showline Guidance, and the standard method used to build a Divert briefing insert. None of this is theoretical.
Every example ahead uses one real show site, so the numbers you see are numbers you could actually brief.
Picture the moment this actually matters. The show site itself stops being usable mid-performance. Maybe a disabled aircraft is sitting on the runway. Maybe weather closes in faster than forecast. Maybe there's an incursion on the field. Whatever the cause, you now have an aircraft in the air with nowhere to land where it just took off. As the Airboss, you have seconds to send that aircraft somewhere safe. The part that saves you in that moment is that you never actually made that decision in the moment. It was made weeks earlier during planning.
What follows is how that earlier decision gets made.
Every divert plan starts from the show site and works outward. On screen, you're looking at Mather Airport, identifier KNHR, near Sacramento, California, with 2 rings drawn around it.
The tighter ring, out to about 50 nautical miles, is where you look for fields to serve slower Category 2 and Category 3 aircraft. The wider ring, out to 200 nautical miles, is the search area for Category 1 aircraft, since a fast jet or warbird can cover that distance quickly even while dealing with a problem.
Nothing inside either ring is a divert field automatically. Every candidate airport in that radius still has to earn its place on a briefing slide, which is the whole point of the next few sections. The size of that search radius comes from one variable: cruise speed, not airframe type. FAA Advisory Circular 91-45 and ICAS split performers into 3 categories. Category 1 is anything cruising faster than 245 knots. Jets, warbirds, high-performance aerobatic aircraft, the kind of airplane pictured here climbing hard against the sky. Category 2 runs from 156 to 245 knots, home to turboprops and fast pistons, like the warbird shown banking over open farmland. Category 3 covers anything at or below 156 knots, the slower general aviation and aerobatic prop aircraft, like the biplane trailing smoke over the coastline. The reason this split matters: a grass strip that's perfectly fine for that biplane could be useless to a Category 1 jet with a hot brake and no drag chute. So every field on a divert list gets tagged with the category it actually serves. Landing inside the radius and matching the category still isn't enough. 4 checks decide whether a field actually makes the list. First, it has to be a paved public use runway. A turf strip or a private field the crew can't access isn't a real option no matter how close it is. Second, the runway has to be long enough for the category it's serving. Over 5,000 feet for Category 1, over 3,500 for Category 2, and Category 3 can use essentially any paved runway. Third, the distance has to make sense for that category, up to 200 nautical miles for Category 1, and closer to 50 for the slower categories. And fourth, the field needs a way to talk to it, so every entry carries its tower or common traffic advisory frequency. Miss any one of these 4, and the field doesn't go on the slide.
Here's why that runway length check matters in practice, using real numbers from around Mather Airport.
3 fields sit within about 2 nautical miles of each other: Rancho Murrieta, Sacramento Executive, and McClellan Airfield. If you picked purely by distance, Rancho Murrieta wins at 10 nautical miles out.
But its longest runway is only 3,798 feet, well under the 5,000-foot minimum for a Category 1 aircraft, so it fails the check and drops off the list.
Sacramento Executive clears the minimum with runway to spare, and McClellan Airfield, only 1.7 nautical miles closer than Rancho Murrieta, has a runway over 2 miles long. So the correct Category 1 pick isn't the nearest field. It's the nearest field that actually passes the check. There's one more thing every divert plan searches for beyond the standard categories: the nearest field with a runway arresting gear system. The photo you're looking at showing an actual BAK-12 installation with its cable stretched across the approach end. These systems usually live at joint-use military or Air National Guard fields, and they matter most for a Category 1 aircraft with a brake or hydraulic failure that needs to stop hard and fast with no other options. You'll see a few common types listed here: BAK-12 and its updated variant, the heavier-duty BAK-14, the Navy and Marine Corps E-28, and the portable MA-1A. Treat that list as background, not as something to assume. Whether a specific field actually has one of these systems, and which type, has to be confirmed directly with that field. Never assumed. Once the fields are chosen, they get compiled into a standard table like this one, And this is the actual insert built for Mather Airport. Reading left to right. The category, the airport's name and identifier, its distance and magnetic bearing from the show site, its longest runway and dimensions, its tower or common traffic frequency, and its arresting gear status. Notice the bottom row. Beale Air Force Base is flagged separately as Category 1 plus arresting gear, even though at 35.5 nautical miles it's by far the farthest field on this list. It earns that separate flag because it solves a problem none of the closer fields can. Also notice it's marked military and prior permission required, and the arresting gear note says the system's presence is confirmed, but its type is not, so it's flagged for direct coordination rather than guessed at. The table is only half the briefing insert. The second half is this, an actual FAA sectional chart cropped to the show area, with every divert field marked and color-coded to its category. The gold marker is the show site. Red is Category 1, blue is Category 2, green is Category 3, an amber marker off to the side is Beale Air Force Base, tagged for both Category 1 and arresting gear. The point of putting this next to the table is simple. A performer under pressure recognizes a field on a chart, not just recall a name from a list. And like every chart in this kind of briefing, it carries a not for navigation notice. It's a briefing aid. The crew still checks current FAA publications before they ever fly. Neither of those two slides works as a standalone document. We get folded into the pre-show brief and delivered to every performer alongside the emergency response plan, the show line, and the knock-it-off procedure, all of it covered before the first aircraft ever starts an engine. The standard this is held to is simple to state and hard to fake. Every performer in that room should be able to answer, without looking anything up, where they go and who they call if they have a problem right now. Nobody in the crowd notices divert planning on a day when nothing goes wrong. That's actually the measure of it working. But on the one day a field becomes unusable mid-performance, this is the work that decides whether the next few minutes go smoothly or badly. It gets done weeks in advance, precisely so nobody has to think it through for the first time in the moment it's needed.